What's up? My name is Ken Dumbo, the MC with the sauce. Don't forget to subscribe to J. Cool.
Greetings to you, fellow citizens. Dunolu Chelo, I just wanted to speak to you about the issue that happened here in Kitwe, where, the church has lost one of its members, a pastor, who was sent to jail yesterday by the magistrate court, Pastor Duncan Simuchimba. Those of you who are familiar with the body of Christ in Kitwe will remember that Pastor Duncan has been in the church leadership for some time. So Pastor Duncan runs a church that congregates at Zip Zip. He's also been very active in the market, is a trader at Sokone market. So I know that a lot of people like to be commenting on things that they do not understand, but those of you who follows my page, those of you who follows my submissions in Parliament will remember that some time back I had taken this matter to the Minister of Local Government and Housing Development. I had actually written and presented the matter in Parliament. Now, some time back, I think before the new TC came, that was the town clerk was Mbulo Seke. I approached town clerk then to lobby for us to have a market shelter at Sokone market. Those who are familiar with Sokone, there is what is called the green market, where our women, our mothers trade in vegetables and the like. So we had lobbied for a market shelter through the equalization fund. And the previous town clerk had given a nod, and unfortunately was moved. Thankfully, the current councillors, mayor and town clerk did proceed to start the construction of that market shelter. So the project was to mean constructing a market shelter. You remember Vanamayo Padiabale Lokwanemfula Nakasuba, they had improvised the fima umbrella fidiabale panga fikachino wale bapangile fima umbrella fidia just to protect themselves against the sun and the rains. So we got lucky that the council, through the equalization fund, undertook a project to do the market shelter, and the project had started. Now, midway the project, there was a proposition from the council that, in front of the market shelter, they do ama shops, new shops that will be run by the council, and all those who are trading in front there should now be renting to the council. And you know that Papa shops, and the way Sokone is, Chisokone Yabakwati, it is owned by the traders themselves. All those structures you see in Chisokone, except for, ama toilets, except for some market shelters, all those shops you see, they've been built by the marketeers themselves. So Chisokone is very different from other markets that you see that government has constructed. In fact, when Elvis Nkandu was Zanama chairman, this matter was taken to the court, where it was very highly debated as to who the owners of Chisokone is. And I can say with all certainties that Chisokone is not only owned by the council. It's a community market, and the marketeers themselves who own those shops built those shops themselves, and they actually do sell out those shops. Okay, so when this proposal was brought that the council wanted to demolish those existing Utuma stands to Abapanta and Shama Green Market, there was a sharp objection from the traders who have those stands, or rather those shops, with a lot of misgivings that they presented before the council. I remember, brokering, deals, or rather meetings between the council and these marketeers, that they arrived to a common understanding. Those of you who are familiar with Kitwe, when I served as DC, you remember there was that issue of the council moving, Ama Street vendors from town into some designated, areas. My role as DC then was to liaise with the council that nobody felt, ill-treated in that process. And I think that it is on record that we were the only district that managed to move traders from the streets of Kitwe without so much, ulabalus, because we did a lot of, extensive consultations. And as DC, I was always standing, with the people, the same traders, and always liaising with my brother Christopher Kangombe then, that we engage them before we move them. And after extensive engagement, the moving of those vendors was very smooth, as opposed to what we see in other areas where vendors are moved what mashil from Muma streets. So this is what I thought, and this is what I was presenting to the council, that you see, moving people or undertaking some development is not difficult if you engage people. Okay, I remember when I served also as a DC, we had secured funds to modernize Sokone market, but because we could not, manage to engage satisfactorily the marketeers, that's how that project was first abandoned. So in leadership, it's always important not to flex muscles. It's important to always agree with the people that you lead, especially if you are going to undertake a project that is going to, unsettle them. Here we are. The marketeers only had a simple plea that council listens to them. They had misgivings. For instance, why should they start paying to the council? Because in fact, they were prepared that if you want to modernize this front, Yapat Green Market, just give us the design. We can construct ourselves these shops and we can find a contractor. Because the challenge they saw was that the market shelter had taken more than the time that was stipulated. Remember, it was supposed to be done in 3 months. But up to now, the market shelter has not been fully completed. You can imagine it has been almost 2 years. Okay, so these are some of the fears that the marketeers had, and they had the right to engage the council. What Pastor Duncan Smuchimba did was to simply be there as a leader of these, marketeers who are going to be disadvantaged, to engage the local authority. Now, because people want to flex muscles, they intimated or they insinuated that Pastor Duncan was obstructing the work of the council. How foolish can we be that people who stands up to demand that they be heard should be slapped with a case of obstruction? Okay? Citizens have a right to be heard. Citizens have a right to be petitioned or to petition government. This notion in the UPND government that people cannot speak is foolish. For lack of better terms, Zambia, takwaba, where you don't want people to be speaking. And this matter, I have been, pleading with my colleagues. Can we treat people, right? There's nothing, it doesn't take anything away from the council by sitting down with the marketeers to agree to disagree. What we saw, the council with the district commissioner decided to take Vasimuchimba to court. And today, Vasimuchimba has been convicted for obstructing the council, merely for demanding that they be heard as marketeers, that their concerns are taken on board when this project would proceed. Lelo bapasta baya kuisa kujele for 9 months for simply speaking out that their plight be taken into consideration. Their misgivings are also heard. I'll tell you this, Mwebena Zambia. Injustices are not supposed to be tolerated in a society. Society must be based on justice. I've learned some saying kuba kuchipata bali kwa tenso selo, where they say you see a lion come into the village and he devours a mad person. Don't ignore, because muntu wa pena. Because the mairo irenkala muikabuela ikalio wa pena. The next day inkala muikesa tamuakabyaba pena mumushi ikambo kulia mweba tuntulu. That is the case of injustices. When you see an injustice being committed on one person, don't ignore just because it is not happening on you. Any injustice must be fought, even if it affects you or not. Because injustices are like HIV and AIDS. The way we used to say about HIV and AIDS, that if you are not affected, you are infected. The same is for injustices. Because slowly, those who commit injustices, they move from one person to the other. Persecutions were only happening to politicians. Slowly, the persecutors started going into the church. We've seen how many priests have been, threatened for simply preaching the gospel. Today, Vashima people bamba no kubakaka for simply standing up for the people. Alright? Some of you are seeing it as normal. Some of us have stood up for friends, like the case of Honorable J.J. Banda. Some of you have been calling us all sorts of names. No, you are standing up for a criminal. We stand up for injustices. I will tell you this. An injustice committed on a person or one individual is an injustice committed on every one of us in the community. Because variabale kaka, mulufiengo, niba brulu benu. Variabale kaka, unjustly, bana benu, niba anko benu, ba fiashi benu. But just because it doesn't affect you directly, you want to think that it's okay. Some of you will even come, no, the law is the law. This is not UPND. The police today will be said to be the police by UPND. The courts today are said to be the courts of the UPND. What has happened, the greatest evil that has happened to this country, is that the UPND has managed to weaponize the courts, such that when they target you as an enemy, they will use the courts to vilify you. Now, tapari umulandu, making a sure bakukaka because you are an enemy. I'll give you a classic example of Bachilangwa, Bachitotela, and the others who have been sent to jail. There are issues and I've challenged by media. Go and investigate the cases of Honorable Chitotela and the others who have been sent to jail. Pamulando tabachitile. Bachitotela was 100 kilometers away from where that Mahindra Yaba UPND was burning. And testimonies were given by over 50 people suggesting that Bachitotela tabari komweba na bakualesa. Lelo Bachitotela 10 years bari muchifungo. 3 judges, 1 judge from Luapula refused to sentence Bachitotela. Batu Momulandu Kasama, the judge in Kasama refused to sentence Bachitotela. Batu Momulandu Central Province, the judge in Central Province refused to sentence Bachitotela. And they wrote to the Chief Justice to alamuka kashanyo yumuntu apabulo mulandu until they had to pick some judge woman, I think, if it's a woman from Southern Province or from Livingstone rather, who came and sentenced Bachitotela to 10 years. When all these other 3 judges in these other areas refused because there were no material facts to warrant to kweba Bachitotela nabo bengaba bika muchifungo. Some of you would even have the audacity to say, no, bari pangomland, let them be jailed. But village tikefi muchalo chesu, injustices are being committed. Abantu kwa buloku pangomlandu, ifo tule tamba, because it doesn't affect us. I've always given the case of Munia Zulu. Munia Zulu alando kutila, ifo fueba akulu mezi to alichenjela, ukuchila abaku wengwa. Atiyoni hate speech, balamutakanya, balamutuana kumakoti. Minister wa education yo aya kuluapula fueba kuluapula aya tuwe kubatatua kwa tatompwe. We suffer from mental poverty. Uyo aleenda fie ukuablo mlandu uli onse despite being reported to the police. Ba police bali filo kuchitechi chonse, ba DPP bali kano kuchita prosecute uli mlandu. When you live in a society where there is no justice, just remember that one day it will move from politicians, it will come to the pastors, it will come to you, the ordinary citizens. Bamumule chensa. File chitikefi, mule chensa no kuchensa. Not realizing that slowly we are creating a monster that is going to devour all of us. Ala dictatorship efo yamba nififine. Panono baikatoyu, mulindui. Baikataudia, mulindui. Bamumule tino kutila noni ba politician, balike ni baisampa ule. But no manachi fuma kuma politician. Chambo kuyechie yeye, mailo chikesa afika on your doorstep, because it may not be you, it may be your breadwinner who is going to be caught up. Trust me, that is when you see the need to stand up against injustices. Inefyo na fialwa, nshifwayo lufiengo, I would rather lay my life over injustices. Okay? Chawa maine bankaka, nangubanji paya for standing up for people that are unjustly treated. I know what injustices means. I have almost suffered injustices. Right now, I am going to start going to court for injustices. Ukumpele fimula ndwifia bulana mano at your seditious practices. So you see that these things we used to see fyashika pa muntu motuletamba. File ya slowly file tuikatabonse. Bamoimwe muletamba no tulimba nomba mu alista develop tulimba. Nobody wants to speak out because you are scared. I'll tell you, the best way to deal with a bully, filato alikuma skulu kwa kweba tukwaba chibuli chile metinya mwasende naba mpere finto wa fiashuku ya kuskulu chami poka. The best way to deal with bullies is to stand up against the bully. Right now, this UPND government is a bully. They are bullying the Zambians to submit to them, to be quiet. You know, they are arresting everyone, even for those that have not committed a crime, for as long as they are speaking out against things that they are doing wrong. If ofwebe na Zambia ba motoletira no balekeni. Bale chipa eno la mwina. Mailo chikaba palimu. I am not a shinganga or a sangoma to predict that tomorrow these injustices are going to visit you until we start standing up against this bully. We need to start standing up as Zambian people against these bullies. To speak silently won't help us, because what they are doing, maleta test. Lelo baikata GBM, lelo baikata chitotela, malo baikata chilangwa, lelo baikata Duncan simuchimba, malo baikata munia, malo baikata bashta budak JJ, and the police won't even say anything. Malo baya koma ulabena shon tembo. All of you are watching these atrocities being committed. Bamumleti no kutira yo UPND 2090. Oh. Okay. Inena mieba. And I will not stop talking. I will not stop talking until you, the Zambian people, begin to see that you are slowly allowing the creation of a monster. You are slowly allowing the creation of a dictator. One day, tukekala kumunga wefuafa muri kino kyalo tukafira okula apema, because bakala atira bino wakwate chimone chikuru ulepeme shaiwe imuingisheni mu kifungo. They are capable of doing that by UPND, because look at the way they are applying this law, the hate speech. Hate speech ile chitafi apply ku bantu bamo kuti batukana fire chief ya southern province ya ku northwestern province fire tukayo tukasasa circumcise ba Edgar Lungu, but bale fitamba. Umuntu walanda kofi ati yo inena alikwatama no kuchira iwe at hate speech. Umuntu aya tutukakulu wapula tamwa kwatamano tamwa kwatatompwe mwebena lwapula uyo ale yendera fi mulelumba imwe muletamba mwebena Zambia na alikwebele tabulapo. That is why I always like to put it on record so that you know Duncan Simuchimba, our own pastor, has gone to jail for merely standing up to demand that the council must listen to the marketeers before proceeding with the intended project. He has gone, suggesting that he was obstructing the council. The church is quiet. Duncan Simuchimba, our pastor, was a leader in the city of Kitwe, in the body of Christ. The church cannot remain silent. You know there is an injustice that has been committed on one of your leaders. You can't remain quiet. The church must always be brave to speak out against injustices. I am waiting to see the church speak out. I am waiting to see the stance of the church, because you and me knows that Pastor Simuchimba has been sent to jail, Murufiengo. Unjustly, we cannot remain quiet when injustices are being committed. It cannot be that country. We've never been at this place in this country where we have two sets of laws. I am a fundiashita apply kuriaba, ababena bangedi. We cannot allow that. And when I speak at Yochibino Wachaite Mokulandaland, Aleni, Ikaleni, one day this voice won't be there. Demwebe chin and chink. One day if you want fikanji payefi. Because very impingida. Oh, one day fikantola kutifungo. Me, I am prepared to die for my country. Me, I am prepared to go to jail. And I will go into jail speaking out because that is what men should do, patriots must do, to stand up against injustices, to stand up against bullies, to stand up against oppressors. We chased oppressors in 1964. We cannot allow another colonizer in our own midst today. We can't. And it is time that we stood up. That is why in Demieba, we don't have to sit quiet when these ills are being perpetrated. We must unite. Don't lose the faith. We possess in a better tomorrow. All we have to do for once is to unite. Echo tupangire chiratuletira movement for good governance is to unite against this bully. Because this bullying ato abapela sanu lutambulo abala derela aba mwalishi bakoswe na munganda nga akokola alamba nkwasha TV if bambire ba UPN balitanga batinika hapa no reaction batinika hapa no reaction mamna fati five na Zambia ni fingwere, they are cowards and they will continue committing these atrocities and injustices on all of you. And if it hasn't affected you today, I can rest assure you it will visit you tomorrow. Think about these words I've said to you. All the best.
Thanks for tuning in to JQ News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the latest updates on tech, politics, and everything in between. Until next time, stay cool.